Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 4 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. If you have a story you'd like to submit to the podcast, you can do so by email at karmastoriespod@gmail.com. Alright, on to today's compliance stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Big Capper 69. We are working too fast? Okay, we will slow down for you. I recently found this sub and I think I have a great story for it. This happened about 2 years ago. I work in construction, but more specifically, I cut concrete. A lot of people aren't familiar with my job, but all you really need to know is that I don't pour any concrete. I use big diesel and hydraulic powered saws to cut and remove it. I work at a relatively small company, 15 employees, and we are the company to use for concrete cutting and removal in our area. I was the first employee hired at this company, and my bosses are amazing. They have been in the industry for 25 and 30 years respectively. We will call them Brad and Cody. They know what they are doing, and they still get out and work in the field and will outwork any of our employees. We were awarded a no-bid contract at a very large facility to cut and remove a very large section of their outdoor slab because it had cracked. This was routine for us. We could do it in our sleep, but it was still a large project. The reason we were given the contract, but not held to a number, was because they wanted it done right and fast. And they knew we were the guys to do this, even though we aren't always the cheapest. The customer requested us to bring extra equipment and specialized saws, just in case. Important later. The day comes that we are supposed to start, and they want us on site at 6:30 a.m. for a safety meeting. Brad and Cody went out while I stayed back to get my crews ready for the day before heading out to meet them. When I arrived at 8 a.m., they were still standing by their trucks just talking. I asked them how the safety meeting went, and they said that no one had shown up yet. Finally, they got there at around 9 a.m. and didn't even acknowledge that they were late. We met the guy that was in charge of the project. His name was John. John said during the safety meeting that there would always be a few people around from his company to watch us while we worked. We figured it was weird, but no big deal. We ran a routine safety meeting after, and it was time to work. We got about a third of the project completed in one day. The entire time we were working, there were no less than 25 people standing around watching us work. We kept joking with them to just set up bleachers. It would be easier to watch that way. They made us call it quits at 4 p.m. so they could go home. Right about this time, we started to figure there was something up with these guys. They didn't care that we didn't get started until late and wanted us to end early. Yet a big part of us being there was to get it done fast. Either way, we figured we would still be able to get it done in about 3 days and make record time for a project of this size, all while making a fair amount of money for ourselves. The next morning, as we were getting ready to head out for the day, Brad received an email. It said, "While we can tell that X company are master operators with their machines, we feel as if they're operating in an unsafe manner by running multiple machines at once, and request that they slow down to maintain safe working conditions." They also didn't try to make sure our supervisors felt like they were safe throughout the day. Brad was pissed. We were called in to get things done fast, and not once had we done a single thing that could be considered unsafe. When we got to the job that day for the safety meeting, Brad had changed from, "Screw these guys, they don't know anything about what we're doing," to, "Okay, we're too fast, we will slow it right down for them." At the safety meeting, John, the same guy who sent us the email, looked at us and said, "Okay, everyone knows what we are doing, let's get it done." He tried to end the safety meeting with that, but that's when my boss spoke up. He said, "Hold on, since no one is man enough to tell us in person and just want to hide behind their emails, let's get this straight. We are too fast and unsafe for you?" John became visibly uncomfortable and stammered out, "Well, there was a lot of people standing around and watching you yesterday, and I just felt that someone would get hurt if they decided to get closer to watch. I had set up safety cones with red danger tape strung between them and told no one to cross. we had taken proper safety precautions. If they didn't feel comfortable to have that many people watch, then don't have that many people standing, watching, and doing nothing. All Brad said was, okay, we will be real slow, and if someone crosses our line, we shut the site down for an hour for another safety meeting. Time for the malicious compliance. We started up for the day. Something to note about our saws, tractors, and other heavy equipment is that we have the ability to turn up the idle, or in other words, we can turn up or down the speed of the motors. So instead of everything moving normally and how it should, which is fast, everything is moving at turtle speed. Brad told us all that if we ever sped up our machines, that he would kick us off the job, even Cody, his business partner. I was cutting with our saw while Cody was in the excavator to remove the pieces that I cut. Brad was in the skid steer to haul the pieces to the dump truck. I would cut the concrete into a 6 foot by 6 foot piece, which would normally take me about 20 to 30 minutes. It was taking upwards of 3 hours for one piece. After I would cut, Cody in the excavator would turn his machine on, slowly turn and stop, extend his bucket, stop, lower the bucket, stop, tilt the bucket, stop, pick up the piece, stop, turn, stop, drop the piece, stop, shut off his machine, all without idling up. Then Brad would start his machine and repeat the same process to load into the dump truck. You get the point, it was painfully slow. After the first piece was ready to be pulled out and Cody started the process, John, who was just sitting on the sideline pale-faced, crossed my line to ask if we were really serious. At that point, Brad screamed, "Shut down!" and we all stepped away for an hour for a safety meeting. John crossed the line 3 times in the first day and 8 times total throughout the project. His employees never once crossed the danger line. Effectively, John was the only one he should have been worried about in his email about getting too close and being in danger. John kept saying, "No way you guys are being serious. What happened to what you were doing yesterday? You were so much more efficient." Brad just said, "I have been writing that you felt unsafe, so for the remainder of this project, we will be operating at a safe pace." It ended up taking us 3 weeks to finish at that horribly slow pace instead of 3 or 4 days at full speed. The best part? The head of the facility came out to see what was taking us so long. We showed him the email and he agreed with what we were doing. He told us he hates John and that he's insufferable to work around. He said that the success of this project is directly tied to John's yearly bonus. He asked how much we were charging them, and we told him that per piece of equipment and truck and saw that is on the site is being billed to them by the hour, and that John had requested that we have nearly double the amount of equipment than we actually needed or used. The facility head just laughed and said, "Fantastic. I will make sure you're paid in full. Don't go easy on us with the bill." That's how we maliciously complied our way into charging about $200,000 for a job that should have realistically only been worth about $45,000. I even got a solid $20,000 bonus because Brad and Cody are fantastic bosses and knew we made a killing on that job. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Crumbled Newman. It says, "John really must have been insufferable if it was worth $200,000 to kick his butt to the curb, laugh out loud." Another commenter down below called T. James V said, "Holy F, I lolled when John crossed the line. Like, dude, you were warned. Did he never cave and tell you to forget the email and return to a normal pace? What a blockhead." OP responded to this one and said, "He tried to tell us to, but he wouldn't put it in writing because that would be him admitting to a mistake in telling us we were unsafe in the first place." So this job was given by the company to OP's company in a no-bid contract because they knew that OP's company would be able to take care of it swiftly and properly. And then they micromanaged them to death. I kind of feel like the upper management was in this one from the beginning though, like they were just trying to find reasons to get rid of John in the first place. So they said to him, "Hey, while this job's happening, you're in charge. Make sure they do everything the way that you want them to do, and don't let them get away with anything. Okay, make sure it's all by the book. This story comes to us from Crazy Co Kids. I am only ringing it up exactly as you ordered it. One of my jobs is in what is apparently one of 3 sources of food in a town of about 150,000 people. I don't know if we're just on a cosmic nexus of stupidity or what, but I would say maybe 50 to 75% of our customers suffer from some form of illiteracy. One of these is coupon illiteracy. So many customers do not know what those symbols on the coupon mean aside from the numbers, if they see them. So when we have a deal going on, sometimes the deal is actually better than the coupon offer. Thus, I end up charging someone more because I have to price override the item to use the coupon, which actually means it went up in price. It's what the customer wants. Other customers think they can beat us by ordering a cheaper item, then making a bunch of modifications to transform it into something else. I'd like a veggie sub, but can you please add ham to it? Don't want to order a ham? Have fun, that's an additional charge to you. Hi, I want a chicken sandwich, but can you replace the chicken with steak? Okay, so you want a steak sandwich? No, I want a chicken, but with the steak instead. Well, if you want to pay the substitution charge, what am I to go with? I mean, you don't work here, and you said this was how you want it made. OP said at the bottom, PS, why is so much R&D spent making an easily comprehended menu when nobody ever sees it? The literal few that look at the dinky little nutritional and allergen information and say we need a proper menu, never mind the big bold menu that is literally right in front of their effing faces. You know, sometimes people just don't see those menus. We're so trained these days to block out all of the ads that we see, and they're usually bright and trying to grab your attention. So it's really not a big surprise that a customer didn't see the big bold menu right in front of their eyes. They probably blocked it out thinking it was an advertisement. So what I've learned from this story is the next time I go to a restaurant, I'm going to order a burger, but it's going to be no cheese, no bun, no lettuce, no tomato, no pickle, no ketchup, and swap the beef for a 12-ounce New York strip, cooked medium rare. Thanks. This story comes to us from Garlic Bread 27. Can't fill my water bottle with water I pay for? Okay. I'm in college and live in the dorms where I am required to have a meal plan. I have 19 meals per week. My degree requires lots of lab work on the 11th floor of a building, and we wear lab coats. I love getting ice water after my lab, especially since I have to walk all the way across campus. My water bottle is insulated, so it keeps ice for a while, which I love. I go to fill my water bottle with ice, and an upper level worker stops me. Ma'am, no filling personal bottles here. The workers do it all the time. It's in their contract. Okay. I bet not, but sure. I know workers get free food and beverages, both on and off shift, and I always see them using and filling personal bottles. I don't know why I can't. Their bottles can also be gross and unclean. Using a reusable bottle is more eco-friendly anyway. My dining hall likes to be climate friendly, but they use a lot of paper plates and plastic silverware, especially when they serve at least 2,000 people per day. So I looked the worker in the face and filled my water bottle with a paper cup. It took so much longer and was so more wasteful than if he had just ignored me. He shook his head and walked away. Now, I fill my water bottle with no problems and enjoy my ice water whenever I want. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called TechNot. It says, real power move would have been a new paper cup for each cup full of water. Another commenter down below called TrainBrain27 said, absolute power corrupts absolutely, but there is no wrath like someone who aspires to be the assistant manager. They will try to escalate nothing until it is enough to ruin someone's day or life. Just make sure you don't do anything actually wrong, like threatening them. I was threatened with expulsion for stealing because I used a reusable container for takeout at a dining hall. It was specifically for stealing, not an imagined health risk. Takeout was allowed, but you had to use stupid styrofoam boxes they provided free with tens of thousands of dollars of tuition. Wait a minute, is it assistant manager or is it assistant to the manager? But you know this guy is out there just looking for something to do, anything that they can enforce, because they're bored out of their mind with absolutely nothing going on. This story comes to us from Steve Hyman 1. You wrote the rules. This goes back to my days working at a large public transit authority. They stress safety at every point related to moving buses, particularly within the depot and outside parking lots. We had 250 buses. As you can imagine, moving large vehicles around in tight spaces can be hard on buses, infrastructure, and people. The layout for our outside lot required about 50 buses to be backed in, 2 rows of 25 nose to tail. Rules required that when backing a bus, we always had to have a backup helper. For obvious reasons, backing 15-ton vehicles into other 15-ton vehicles can lead to mayhem, especially after dark and in poor weather. Management decided they didn't want to pay someone to stand around and do this. There were 6 shifters, operators working the yard to move buses after they pulled in, parked for the night, or moved to maintenance. Rules state you never leave a bus unattended. If it's running, someone is in the seat. First night, first bus goes outside and calls the yard dispatcher for help. Yard dispatcher ignores them. Next bus, same thing. After the 6th bus arrives in the yard, waiting for backup help, the line for pull-ins was 10 deep around the block, and all the shifters were in the yard. The neighborhood hates the depot anyway. Calls to police begin about buses blocking the streets. Yard dispatcher is flipping out. The backup guy was back within the hour, on overtime for the balance of the pick about 3 months, since management had eliminated the job. It usually went to an operator on restricted duty for whatever reason. They wrote the rules, not our job to ignore them. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called PN Gwyn. It says, sometimes it's best to follow flawed rules and watch the place come crashing down, at least as long as nobody gets injured. If you just try to make it work, it stays your problem. If it fails big time, it becomes the problem for management and usually gets solved. Sometimes surprisingly quick. Just make sure to cover your butt before they look for people to throw under the bus. I am guessing this story's from quite a ways back because most of the buses these days have parking sensors and cameras, and they don't really require somebody else when they're backing up because the cameras allow them to see back there better than they ever could before. I agree though, in this case, they followed the rules just to watch it burn, and it was beautiful. They stuck to it. And the lesson learned here was, sometimes you gotta let dumb decisions implode to prove the point. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.